So every year I have to set some personal goals for myself, and one of the ones that I set for this year was to learn how to produce less waste. Alright, so just as a little disclaimer, these are all just little steps that I have taken for the last maybe 6 months or so. Like, I'm not zero waste. I doubt I will ever be zero waste, and a lot of that does come down to my diet. I guess my 3 main culprits for this would be like meat and the packaging that it comes in, obviously. Having some convenient options around, like rice that you can just heat up in the microwave. And sometimes, because our schedules are hectic, we like to have ready-made meals. Example, U-Foods or something like that. So I will never be zero waste, and if you're after complete zero waste tips, I'm probably not the best person to watch. But if you are after more sustainable ways to reduce your waste, then yeah, keep watching. Because I wanted to find things that fit into my lifestyle reasonably well, like changes that I was able to implement without it being too much of a struggle. I think this is one of those touchy topics, and I have noticed when I was like reading comments on like blog articles and things like that, when I was doing a lot of research myself, people get really hectic about it, but you don't know all the changes and effort someone else has put in. So I think, you know, it's really important that we all try to do at least something, and if everyone was able to make some small changes, it would just add up so much and make a huge impact on the yearly garbage that we're all throwing away. Obviously, one of the biggest things is not purchasing heaps of new stuff, which obviously, if you've seen my minimalism series, is something that I've been doing for years and years. And what that looks like is going to be so different for everyone. The next step that I took when I realized I want to reduce the amount of waste that I am outputting is I had to sort of audit what was coming out. So the major contributions that I saw were food packaging and oral and beauty hygiene products. They were my main things. So one of the first steps I took was I got myself a compost bin, and with that I am able to compost down any food waste that we have. Once that's settled down, I can actually use this as a diluted fertilizer. The next thing that I wanted to tackle was cleaning supplies. While I have sort of dabbled in making homemade cleaning supplies, if we ran out and I didn't have something done in time, I'd just pick something up and I wouldn't really like care or look where it was coming from. And I just kept going through so many plastic bottles of cleaning supplies. And I was like, right, cool. Well, I already know how to make cleaning products. And if you check out my book Less, I have a whole page of recipes that I use. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, let's just be more prepared and make sure that I've always got made things on hand. There are some things that I don't want to hand make. So for example, floor cleaner, rather than buying like heaps and heaps of bottles of it, what I decided to do instead is get a concentrate. And same with dishwashing liquid, I got a concentrate for that. So both of the concentrates are more natural ingredients, which are probably better to be flushing down the sink than some of the other things. But I personally don't have time to make everything from scratch. And if you do, kudos to you, but I feel like convenience has to play into it somewhere. There are heaps of natural alternatives to store-bought cleaning products that are still capable of getting rid of bacteria. Another thing that I like to do for this is buy some of these ingredients in bulk. So you can see I have some bulk supplies in this cupboard here. This way you can make some of your supplies yourself and just put them in one of those amber spray bottles. Here is a quick little recipe for an all-natural, all-purpose cleaner, and it only has 2 ingredients. Firstly, you'll need to start collecting some citrus peels. So you could use oranges for this. I personally like to use lemons just because I never have oranges in the house. I do have lemons though. As you eat the lemons, start to collect them up. What you do want to do though is make sure that there's not too much flesh left on the skin of the lemon. So I like to take a knife and run that along and just take the pulp away from the lemon. This pulp and all the inside parts, they can actually be thrown into the compost bin as well. So then I keep collecting those lemons in the jar. This is a 1 liter jar, and once it's halfway full, I'm going to fill it all the way up with white vinegar and leave it in a cool place for 2 weeks. Citrus peels contain a substance called D-limonene. It's like a natural solvent, but what we need to do is break it down into the vinegar, so that's why we're leaving it for 2 weeks. So there tends to always be a jar of this sitting in the fridge. After the lemon peels have had the time to soak, you're going to take a sieve and pour the mixture through that into your glass jar. And you can chop up those leftover peels and they can be thrown into the compost bin as well. Grocery shopping is one of those tricky things because I don't have a car. Like, I'm not going to drive around to a million different places to get my things. I personally go between 3 places. When it comes to the grocery shopping, it's just about adopting some new habits. Firstly, you're going to want to bring reusable bags with you. So I have a few different kinds. You can see I've got these big heavy duty canvas bags, and I got these from an art shop. So they do actually have seams along the sides, and it's a more supportive base rather than just being rounded like a regular tote bag. And then I have cotton produce bags for bulk items. So for example, nuts, pasta, quinoa, any kind of flour that we might be using, all that sort of thing. Because these sort of bags, there's such a fine weave on them that the produce won't get out of them, and it saves having to buy the pre-plastic package version. One of the biggest ones I noticed was like oats. I was like, damn it, we're buying oats all the time. Like things like that are so easy to swap over into buying in bulk. I've bought in bulk before, but I've never been super consistent with it. So it's one of those things where as I start to run low on a product, I write it down in my shopping list in my app in my phone. If you are going to something like a package-free shop, you're also going to want to make sure that you're bringing things like glass jars with you if that's convenient for you. I try to bring the produce bags and a couple of glass jars. Too many glass jars just make the trip too heavy. So produce bags, a few glass jars, you're good. Now, a crazy stat that I read, now this was based in the US, and it's that on average Americans go through 1.6 straws per person per day. And I was like, Jesus, that's so much. I personally just don't use straws unless it's like this container. But if you're someone who uses straws when you go out, just grab either a metal straw or a bamboo straw. And yeah, you can just leave that in your bag. And that's another thing. In my bag, I leave a bamboo cutlery set. So if you are eating somewhere out of the house, rather than picking up plastic cutlery, you can just use the bamboo set that you've got. There's also metal versions of this available. One thing that I knew needed a shake up was my beauty/hygiene routine. Okay, when it comes to this stuff, don't just go out and buy new things. That sort of defeats the whole purpose. What we're doing here, just wait till you run out, and then we're choosing the better option. So it's like waiting until you're about to run out of a product and going, okay, well, what can I replace this with, which is going to cause less impact when I have to, you know, throw it away or use it or whatever it might be. When it comes to dental hygiene, there were a couple of things that I did. You have the option of making your own toothpaste, but to be honest, I'm not going to sit there and make my own toothpaste. And I also really hate the idea of using toothpaste that's got coconut oil in it. Like back being on keto, I finished keto a year and a half ago, by the way, guys. I still get comments about it, but I finished that up so long ago. Yeah, it really turned me off coconut oil. One really easy swap: when your toothbrush is dead, replace it with a bamboo one. Check on what kind of bristles you're using though. Some of these bamboo toothbrushes are fully compostable, you know, can bury them in the garden, that kind of thing. And some of them, the bristles actually cannot, just the handle. So make sure you're checking which one you're getting. I did buy a tooth powder. I have noticed, like, I've had this for a while now, and I brush my teeth twice a day, and it's just hardly made a dent in it. It's something which I feel like it's going to take so long to get through all the powder. Floss also has its issues, so when I ran out of my last floss, I replaced it with a natural floss that comes in a glass container. The glass container can be reused as well, and I bought another insert for the floss. So from now on, all I have to do is buy the inserts, like not the whole container over again, so I'm not chucking away an extra piece of plastic. And I thought this mouthwash was such a great idea because it's portion controlled, so it's already done for you. So the mouthwash comes in these little tablets without throwing away those huge bottles. If you want to know where any of this stuff is from, I am putting together a blog post for you as well, and I will link absolutely everything in there. When it comes to hair removal, years ago I had a bunch of laser hair removal done, but I still need a razor for little things like, I know this sounds super weird, but like I shave my arms because it makes the tattoos look better. Are they finished? No. Am I lazy with it? Yes. But anyway, I still require a razor, so I swapped it up to a safety razor. This thing feels so much sturdier, and when the blade is done, I have a little metal tin that lives in my bathroom, and I just collect the blades up in there because you do want to get them collected safely. You don't just want to be dumping them into the regular rubbish. Another quick thing in the beauty routine, instead of using those cotton face rounds, I actually started using a linen cloth to scrub my face. The skin is showing that it's fine. You wash it, like that's what you do. You just chuck them in the wash and then you use it again. Now I know paper towels are one of those kitchen items that a lot of people have become accustomed to, but worldwide, yearly, we use about 250 million tons of this stuff. So I have a couple of reusable hemp cloths. Another option that you can have is cut up some old fabric things that you have around. Like if you have a tea towel that is on the verge of needing to be thrown out, use that, or like a super old bath towel or something, cut them up and use them instead of the paper towels. Upcycle things in your kitchen. So anytime I finish a jar of something, I'm probably going to use that jar for something else. So I have some spare jars sitting in a cupboard. So if I cut up some veggies or I have something left over, I'm just going to take one of those jars and use that to keep the other produce and things fresh in the fridge. And you could use the glass jars that you finished to store home cleaning supplies or whatever it might be. You can always use them over again. When it comes to books and reading, I don't know how I feel. I know some people say like go digital, and then other people say like going just digital is wasteful, but like I tend to use both options. Like I have some digital and ebooks on my phone, but then I also have some proper books because I do love having books that I enjoy. And another thing, like uni books, there's a couple of uni books that I've had to just keep because I keep referring back to them for things. So that sort of one is largely dependent on your lifestyle, like whether you want to go to a library or whether you want to have that book and then pass it on or whatever you feel is going to work for you. Now, I already don't drink coffee. So I was not going to mention reusable coffee cups in case you're wondering. And I don't drive a car, so I think that's a huge waste reduction in itself. But so far with these changes, none of this has been immediate. And I would say, like, the more I'm doing it, the more the rubbish amount that's being thrown out is dropping down. I feel like this is one of those things where you can't beat yourself up about it. You can only do what you're capable of doing. You cannot compare what you're doing with waste reduction and minimalism to what someone else is doing, because if you live two different lifestyles, you can't even cross that over at all. So do what you can do. So if reducing your waste is a step that you want to take, have a little audit of your house, have a little audit of what you tend to throw away or what things you go through the fastest, and think to yourself, how can I replace this with something that is more sustainable? I hope you're having a fantastic day or evening or whatever the time is where you are. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. And if you are looking for ways to slow down the rate of purchases, check out my minimalism series. I have so many videos in that series, and I will leave it linked in the description box for you. Good luck on your journey to creating less waste, and I will catch you in my next upload. Bye.